Welcome to another episode of Books and Bites. Today we're diving into something I think a lot of our listeners struggle with, and that's productivity. But we're adding a twist. We're not talking about the kind of productivity that leaves you feeling totally burnt out.
Right.
We're exploring this idea of feel-good productivity, and we're going to be using Ali Abdaal's principles from his book to kind of guide us.
Okay.
So many of us, we hit a wall with like the traditional productivity advice because it just feels like a chore, you know?
Yeah, it really does. You're right. And Abdal really gets that. He's not afraid to sort of challenge that head on.
Okay.
He suggests that productivity can not only feel good, but that positive emotions can actually make you more effective.
Whoa.
It's like happiness is a secret weapon when it comes to productivity.
Now, you might be thinking, wait, how can feeling good actually make me like more productive?
Right.
That's where the science comes in. And Abdal actually dives into the research that shows happiness can like supercharge your focus, your creativity, and even your energy levels.
It really can. It sounds counterintuitive, but the evidence is there.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Think about a time when you were really excited about a project. Didn't it just feel effortless?
Yeah.
Like you got into that flow state and the work just seemed to do itself.
Totally.
That's the feeling we're going to be aiming for with feel-good productivity.
Okay.
But Abdal doesn't just stop at, like, be happy. He really emphasizes aligning your goals with, like, your personal values.
Right.
You know, when you're working towards something that truly matters to you, motivation just becomes so much more natural.
Yeah.
It just happens.
Like that classic example of climbing a mountain.
Right.
Like if you're doing it just to impress people on social media, it's going to feel like a total slog.
Oh, yeah.
But if you're driven by this genuine love for the challenge and the beauty of like nature, that same climb becomes like this exhilarating journey.
Absolutely. It's all about finding that internal drive that keeps you going even when things get tough.
Exactly.
And that's where things start to get really practical with this approach. Okay, Abdal doesn't just talk about emotions. He offers concrete steps you can actually take to cultivate feel-good productivity. Like he suggests designing your workspace and routines to support good habits.
Interesting.
You know, it's about setting yourself up for success. It's almost like you're creating an environment where productivity can just flourish naturally.
It's like tending a garden, right?
Exactly.
You need the right soil, the sunlight, and like care for your plants to actually thrive. So similarly with productivity, you need to create an environment that nourishes your focus and motivation.
Yeah.
And even little things like decluttering your desk or creating a dedicated workspace, I think can make a really big difference.
Huge difference for sure. But Abdal doesn't stop at just the external environment.
Yeah.
He goes into the internal landscape as well and really emphasizes the importance of rest and recovery.
Interesting.
And he reminds us that rest isn't a reward, it's an essential ingredient for sustained productivity. When you're well rested, you're just simply more capable of doing your best work.
It's so easy to fall into that trap of thinking we need to be like on all the time, constantly pushing ourselves to the limit.
Yeah, and that's a recipe for burnout.
Exactly.
Rest is like hitting the reset button. It allows us to come back refreshed, re-energized, ready to tackle our goals with renewed focus and clarity.
Yeah, and I think that's where this concept of a growth mindset and self-compassion comes in.
For sure.
Abdal really emphasizes that setbacks are inevitable, and that's okay. It's not about striving for perfection, but about embracing the journey of learning and growth.
Right.
When we encounter obstacles, we should treat ourselves with kindness and understanding rather than self-criticism.
Yes.
This makes a huge difference in our ability to bounce back from challenges and stay motivated in the long run.
I think that's so important.
It's about shifting our perspective from viewing productivity as like this grueling task to embracing it as an opportunity for personal growth and self-discovery.
I love that.
It's not about denying the importance of hard work, but about finding a way to work that feels good and aligns with our values and aspirations.
That's it. That's right. Abdal's approach goes beyond just getting things done.
Right.
It's about cultivating a mindset and a lifestyle that allows us to do our best work while also feeling happy and fulfilled.
So what are some of the key takeaways from feel-good productivity?
Yeah.
Well, first and foremost, I think it's about enjoying the process.
Yes.
If you're constantly dreading your work, it's going to be really hard to sustain motivation.
Yeah, you're fighting an uphill battle there.
And Abdal really encourages us to find ways to make our work more enjoyable, whether it's by listening to music, breaking down tasks into smaller chunks, or simply focusing on the aspects of our work that we find most engaging.
He also emphasizes the importance of setting meaningful goals. It's not just about setting any goals, but about setting goals that align with your values and that you're genuinely excited to achieve. When your goals are meaningful, your work feels purposeful, and you're more likely to stick with it even when faced with challenges.
It's like having a compass that guides you towards a destination you're passionate about.
Exactly.
It's not just about blindly following a path, but about choosing a direction that resonates with your heart.
And of course, prioritizing rest and recovery is crucial.
Oh, for sure.
Abdaal reminds us that rest isn't a reward.
Right.
It's a requirement for sustainable productivity.
Yeah.
When you prioritize rest, you're investing in your long-term well-being and ensuring that you can continue to perform at your best.
It's like refueling your car.
Yeah.
You can't expect it to keep running without giving it the fuel it needs.
Right.
Similarly, we can't expect to keep performing at our best without giving ourselves the rest and recovery we need.
And remember, embracing a growth mindset and practicing self-compassion are key.
Totally.
It's about celebrating our progress and learning from our mistakes rather than striving for perfection. When we adopt this mindset, we're more resilient, adaptable, and less likely to get discouraged when we face setbacks.
It's about viewing challenges as opportunities for learning and growth, rather than as threats to our self-worth.
Exactly.
When we embrace this perspective, we become more open to feedback, more willing to experiment, and ultimately more capable of achieving our goals.
And that, I think, is the essence of feel-good productivity.
Yeah.
Finding a way to work that is both effective and enjoyable.
It's not about denying the importance of hard work, but about finding a way to work that feels good and aligns with our values and aspirations.
It's about creating a life where work is a source of fulfillment, not just a means to an end. You know, it's fascinating how Abdaal really breaks this concept down in his book.
Yeah.
He doesn't just throw out these feel-good platitudes.
Right.
He provides a real framework for understanding how and why this approach works.
He starts by really defining feel-good productivity, like dissecting what it actually means and debunking those common myths about hustle culture. It's about understanding that you don't have to burn yourself out to be successful.
Right. And then he takes us deeper into like the science behind it. He explores how positive emotions actually impact our brain chemistry,
Interesting.
literally changing how we think and work. There's a whole section on the neurochemicals of happiness.
Wow.
And how they can actually improve focus, creativity, and even problem solving.
So it's like he's giving you a peek behind the curtain of your own brain,
Exactly.
showing you how cultivating those positive emotions can actually make you more effective.
Yeah, and he even gets into the practicalities of designing your environment
Okay.
and building those sustainable habits.
Mhm.
So it's not just about feeling good in the moment.
Right.
It's about creating a system that supports your well-being and productivity in the long run.
One thing that really stood out to me was this concept of joyful goal setting.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just about setting any goals. It's about finding goals that genuinely excite you.
Yes.
Goals that make you want to jump out of bed in the morning.
Absolutely. Abdaal argues that when you're working towards something that you're passionate about, the motivation just follows effortlessly. It's not about forcing yourself to do something you hate.
Yeah.
It's about finding those things that light you up
Right.
and then figuring out how to make those things a part of your work.
He talks about the importance of scheduling downtime, taking breaks, and making sure you're getting enough sleep.
What's really compelling is how he uses real-life examples and personal anecdotes to illustrate all of these concepts.
Yeah.
He shares stories about his own struggles with productivity
Wow.
and how he's used these principles to transform his work and his life.
It makes it so much more relatable.
Right.
He's not just some productivity guru preaching from on high.
Exactly.
He's someone who's been in the trenches, faced the same challenges that we all face.
Yeah.
And he's figured out a way to not just survive, but to thrive.
And he does a great job of weaving in like insightful quotes and research findings that really drive home these points. For example, he quotes Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi,
Oh, yeah.
the psychologist who coined the term flow, saying, "The best moments in our lives are not the passive, receptive, relaxing times. The best moments usually occur if a person's body or mind is stretched to its limits in a voluntary effort to accomplish something difficult and worthwhile."
I love that quote.
That's a good one.
It reminds us that true fulfillment comes from challenging ourselves and pushing our boundaries, but in a way that feels good,
Yes.
not in a way that leaves us feeling drained and depleted.
Exactly. It's about finding that sweet spot where we're engaged, challenged, and energized.
And Abdaal also emphasizes the importance of small wins compounded over time. He reminds us that we don't need to make these drastic changes overnight.
Right. It's those small, consistent efforts that ultimately lead to the big results.
It's about focusing on progress, not perfection.
And he doesn't shy away from addressing the challenges either.
Right.
He has a whole chapter on dealing with procrastination,
Oh, yeah.
offering practical strategies and techniques for overcoming it.
And he doesn't sugarcoat it.
Yeah.
He acknowledges that procrastination is a real struggle and that it's something that we all deal with from time to time.
But he also emphasizes that it's not something to be ashamed of,
Okay.
and that with the right tools and strategies, we can overcome it.
He even provides a framework for understanding the different types of procrastination.
Right.
And offers tailored advice for each type.
Yeah.
It's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Yep.
He recognizes that what works for one person may not work for another.
It's about finding what works for you and then consistently applying those strategies.
It's just so refreshing to see someone tackling this idea of productivity from this angle.
Yeah.
Focusing on well-being and sustainability rather than just pushing ourselves to the limit.
Absolutely. And, it's not about denying that hard work is important. It's about finding a way to work that feels good and aligns with our values and aspirations.
So having explored all of this, what's the one thing you really hope our listeners take away from Abdaal's approach?
I think the biggest thing is that feeling good isn't a luxury.
Okay.
It's a crucial ingredient for sustainable success and happiness.
Mm-hmm.
When you prioritize your well-being, you're not just taking care of yourself.
Right.
You're setting yourself up to do your best work.
I think this deep dive has given us a lot to think about
I agree.
and hopefully inspired some of our listeners to kind of reevaluate their approach to productivity.
I hope so too. Remember, productivity doesn't have to be a grind.
Yeah.
Tapping into joy and aligning your work with your values can actually fuel your best work
Absolutely.
and lead to a more fulfilling life.
If you're intrigued by Ali Abdaal's approach to feel-good productivity, we encourage you to grab a copy of the book from the link in the description.
Yeah, definitely check it out.
And don't forget to subscribe to Books and Bites for more insightful deep dives into the world of books and ideas.
Until next time, happy reading and happy working.